Hey there everyone, I'm Michael, and welcome to another socially distant development update video. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I have a lot to show you guys. First of all, there have been many optimizations made to the Thundershock Engine, and I'm nowhere near done. The game is running at 4K right now, and I'm recording, and as you can see, NeoFet is reporting that I am running at a blissful 225 frames per second. Actually, that's 226. All things considered, that's a pretty badass frame rate, and even if I turn on the frame rate counter, you can see that I'm averaging around 200 or 500. I can't even read it. I keep going between 200, 500, 700, 900, and I'm recording. My system has a Ryzen 7 3700X and an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060. CPU is very important to run Thundershock because it's a C# program, not a C++ program. There's some inherent CPU overhead from that. But I'm getting almost 1,000 FPS almost constantly. Maybe I'll do a video explaining the technical details behind the optimizations we've been making, and I say we because I owe a huge thank you to Technological Pizza on GitHub for helping rewrite the rendering code in Thundershock to make it a little more or a little less intensive on your CPU, and make it do a little less chaotic amounts of memory allocations. The rendering system is about 30% faster, which is no small amount. It is amazing. I am really thankful to him for all his work today. Anyway, as far as optimizations he's made, like I said, he has changed the way the renderer deals with allocating memory, and what he's basically done is my code would copy one vertex at a time and one index at a time, which I'll go into the technical details of what all this means eventually in another video, maybe in DIY game engines. But what he does is he will reserve a certain amount of vertices and indices for the object we're about to render, and he'll do it all in one shot, and that makes it a lot faster because one massive block copy is a lot faster than a bunch of tiny little individual copies and tiny little individual allocations. So it's a lot faster now, and I'm really happy. Optimizations that I have made involve the general batcher itself. It now is more intelligent about how it groups vertices together and groups triangles together, which is going to vastly improve performance in the 2D rendering context, which of course is important for socially distant because the game is primarily 2D. I mean, we're looking at a tiled window manager here. Of course it's going to rely on the 2D renderer. It's a lot more intelligent in how it batches up triangles now. It's getting close to mono game levels of intelligence, as much as I feel weird saying that, which is great. As far as user interface optimizations, I've broken a few things in the UI, but I've mostly fixed them as well. But I've also made the entire UI a lot quicker, a lot less intensive each frame. One thing that I have done in terms of the desktop is, well, now, you know, there's this panel here with all your information, right? That is on its own UI layer. Oh, I've just noticed some text rendering bugs. Oops, I'll have to look into that. This entire panel is its own UI layer, or its own window, basically, because Thundershock has windowing support now, kind of. You still need socially distanced code to do it, but it does have support in the engine for it. This desktop panel is a window. This little side panel here is a window, and you can tell it's a window because it looks like it came straight out of Windows XP. This area is another window, and the console is another window. The reason these are windows instead of being stacked in a group of stack panels is it means that these UI elements are effectively discrete in their layout calculations. So when terminal requires a layout update, like if I hit enter a few times and start triggering the auto scroll, this is doing a bunch of layout updates in the background. In the old engine, before windowing was added, whenever terminal needed a layout update, it would recurse up to the window and then to the stackers and then to the entire desktop, and suddenly the entire desktop was doing a layout pass because I typed something in the terminal, and that's not great. This new system allows it, well, yes, it'll recurse up to the window border, but then that's the top level. It won't go any further. It's not going to affect this, it's not going to affect that, it's not going to affect the panel. I'm pointing at things on my screen and you can't see me doing that, but it's not going to affect anything outside its little window here. And that's pretty freaking cool. That means there are far less layout calculations going on. Layout calculations are intensive, so that's good. A bug with this is that, well, if you look at this button, it has no text, and this profile area has no text, and this button is slightly overlapping the window because it's a discrete window, and, yeah. If I click on this button, it's actually the settings menu, and this is its own discrete little window because you can tell it has a window border and a title text. By the way, I'm redoing the window theme. I think it looks a little better this way. But anyway, this is a discrete window, so now that I'm dragging it around, it is doing a layout pass each time I drag it around, but you can tell it's very smooth. It's very quick in how it's doing its layout pass because it's only doing a layout pass for the actual window itself. It is not affecting anything on the desktop because the desktop is all its own little... They're all discrete windows. So this is going to be very handy for gameplay. I've also fixed a layout bug, or not a layout bug, but a visual bug with buttons. Text is now properly centered. That has been fixed. There is a bug in the engine where if you change a resolution, or change your resolution, sorry, and you start hitting a different GUI scale breakpoint, it breaks the clipping rectangles of the UI. So if we, basically what that meant is you can see now that the terminal is no longer drawing text. It's because its clipping rectangle is incorrect now, and there's no update. I don't know why it's doing that, but yeah, that happened and it sucks. But once you cause a layout update, it fixes itself. So I'll have to investigate why it requires a layout update. But anyway, you can see that it broke settings as well, and we can invoke a layout update by basically clicking any of these buttons, and boom, everything's back to the way it was. Alright, I'm going to go back up to 3840 by 2160, and then do a layout update here, and then do a layout update here. There we go. And everything is hunky-dory. Oh, okay, that has broken itself. Okay. Anyway. What I can do is I can turn on vertical sync, and that's going to have us run at about 60 frames per second, because that's what VSync does. If you have a 60 Hz panel, it's going to run at 60 FPS. The reason it says 59 is because I'm flooring the FPS value rather than rounding, and I'm dumb. I'll have to fix that, but it should say 60. Bloom is turned off right now, but if we turn it on, you can see that bloom is a little more noticeable. And if we turn on CRT Shadow Mask is the same, but all that works. There has actually been a bug fix, though, in a few builds that I haven't showed you guys. CRT Shadow Mask, even though it was turned off, would still be active. So that has been fixed. Anyway. Yeah. I lost my train of thought. But as you can see, everything is very, very bloomy. Now, with bloom, it does affect readability of window titles, but honestly, you know it's the settings menu, so I'm not worried. But yeah, you can see how bloom is affecting the window border textures. They have a slight glow to them, which I like. So does the FPS counter, funnily enough. But we are running at 300 FPS now with the settings menu open. There are still optimizations I need to make with it. But hey, most of it's working. Anyway, okay, we are back up to 500 FPS. Of course, having bloom and everything turned on will affect your FPS ever so slightly, so, you know, be wary of that. Anyway, more optimizations I've made involve the terminal and the way it works. First of all, the terminal renderer has been optimized. Text is now cached a lot more aggressively. Text will only re-render if it's actually changed. So not only do we cache the text layout, which makes it a lot faster, that has been an optimization made all the way back in the Red Team days, but we now actually re-render the text vertices if the layout has changed, and we retain those vertices across multiple frames, which means that things are a lot faster. That same terminal rendering optimization has been applied to things like buttons, which is probably why this is bugged out. They've been applied to text blocks. Drop-downs, I think, have them. List views or list boxes do not have that optimization yet. So that's still in need of some change. Check labels do have the optimization. Tooltips don't. I'm probably going to be rewriting the tooltip feature eventually to allow you to add more than just text to them, which will be handy for the Thundershock level editor, by the way. Yeah. So most of the text-related UI elements do have that vertice caching optimization, which makes it a lot faster. Anyway. The next optimization I made with the terminal was actually the way the shell works. So as you can tell, the shell looks normal. You might be able to tell that something's going on when you realize that there are no autocompletes. Autocompletions have been turned off. The reason for that is they don't render right now. I have to rewrite that rendering code because of the text vertices, but also autocompletes are kind of impossible right now with the current shell because I have not figured them out yet. So they're turned off. The reason for that is that the shell has been completely redesigned and rewritten and takes better advantage of Thundershock Engine now. So a while back, we implemented an ECS into Thundershock. That is an entity component system, and it's a way... I'll do a video explaining what an ECS is. There are many videos explaining it, though. But effectively, it's a way of organizing data and untying data from behaviors. It's a way of building objects out of data rather than out of behaviors. Think in a... Okay, I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to do it in a different video, maybe in DIY Game Engine. But anyway, what I've done is I've made the shell take advantage of the ECS. And what that allows me to do, eventually, is to allow you to have tabbed terminals. So basically, what I do is there's only one shell in the game, or one instance of the shell. But there are also agents in the game, and an agent is a computer. The player character is an agent. All NPCs are agents. And an agent can have a shell state and a console attached to them. And if that happens, then the shell system will kick in on that agent, and you'll get what you're seeing right now. You'll get a shell interpreter. So when I enter text into this shell, the shell system will see that text on my agent's console. It'll read it, it'll interpret it, it'll execute it if it can. In this case, it couldn't, so it said command it's not found. And it'll execute it on behalf of my agent. And then once the command completes, I'll get back to a shell. If I were to type exit on an agent, and let's say that exit was actually implemented at this point in the game, because it's tied to an agent, this is a login shell, so I cannot exit it. But if I were hacking somebody, I would be able to exit that shell because it would be a remote shell, and even though it's tied to the agent, it is not tied to the player agent, so I can disconnect from that shell. But since it's tied to a player agent, what I could then do is I could type in a command, say this were implemented, shutdown, and because I can distinguish between a player and an NPC, shutdown would probably bring up some dialog box saying, hey, do you want to quit the game? Your unsaved progress might be lost, but do you want to quit? And then that's pretty cool. And I can do that all by just setting data inside of the shell state and tying it to an agent. And then if I wanted to add like a tabbed terminal, I could just spawn another entity and then add my agent information to it, and then a shell state and all that stuff would just work. Anyway, I'm not going to venture too far into that. Suffice to say, this is pretty freaking cool. Another thing that I have added in the game, now I was going to do a video of this, but I forgot to upload it, and then I didn't make a backup of it, and then I formatted my laptop, which is what I recorded it on, so that video is gone. But what I have done is I have implemented notifications, and you can test them out by doing notify hello world. It works a lot like Echo, but it's gonna spawn a notification. Just don't blink, alright? Pay attention to the top center of the screen. It's a very small area in 4K, but there's a notification. Or maybe not. Because notify was not found. I don't know why that... Oh, I typed in modify, but notify hello world. Let's try that again. Alright, pay attention to that top center area of the screen. It's very small in 4K, and you'll only see it for a split second. There's notification. It pops up from the bottom, or from the top of the screen, just like Android. Excuse me. I ate spicy nachos not long ago. Anyway, notifications are pretty cool. Because it's all well and good that I can spawn a notification from the shell and set arbitrary text, but they do have more features. I mentioned Android. On your Android phone, or maybe even your iPhone, I don't know, I don't use iOS, I don't know how it works, but on Android, when we get a notification, it can have many attributes attached to it, and it can have actions attached to it. For example, if I get a message on Discord, it'll pop up on my phone, and I'll have the option to reply to it. Which is where this sendmail command comes in. Now, I'm working on an email system in the game, so that you can get mission emails and stuff from NPCs, and send data to NPCs for missions, sort of like Hacknet. I'm working on an email system, and it's mostly done. I just don't have any agents to send an email to, or an agent to send an email from, but I am an agent, or rather, yeah, I don't have any NPC agents is what I meant to say, but I am a player agent, and I do have a mailbox, so I can send email, and the game is actually smart enough to tell when I try to send to an address that doesn't exist. So let's give that a try. Send mail, and then the usage is, the first argument is the email you want to send it to. So in this case, I'm going to do richie@frodema.xyz. It's a Pokemon reference. For the subject, I'm going to do hello Richie. And then for the content, which is text only, but it does support images, actually, and it does support link actions, which is pretty cool. It's just that it's hard to implement that from the command line. So for now, it's text. But in the game's API, you can send images and stuff along with emails. But for content, I'm going to say, hi, Richie. I am writing to tell you that you are cool. Kind regards. Crap. My name is also Richie. I don't know why I spent time typing that out. But if I hit enter on it, it's going to say, hey, we sent the email. And then a few seconds later, we're going to get a notification saying that the email was rejected by the server because there was no server. There was no... We actually got an email back from our mailbox saying, hey, I couldn't send that email. And if you looked, I mean, it was only there for a few seconds, but there was actually a view and a dismiss button. When the email viewer UI is implemented soon, you'll be able to click the view button, and the email will open right in this big empty window here under the mail viewer, and you'll be able to read it and you'll be able to interact with it. But yeah, that notification allowed you to easily get that email. Now in Hacknet, when you get an email, it actually spawns a freaking massive circle that radiates out from the mail icon in the notification tray. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to copy Hacknet. This UI looks a lot like Hacknet as it is. But yeah, email is coming. That's an important part of gameplay that we really do need to implement, so I'm going to be implementing it next. And luckily I have delivery rejection mails, so I can actually test being able to send an email and receive an email, which is really handy. And then after that I'm going to implement chat, which, by the way, was my final little part of this video. What we're going to do is we're actually going to become a developer here. And we're going to go into the game's app data directory, roaming, my name, we're going to go socially distant, and we're going to go redteam.conf. And there's going to be a value in here that allows me to set the save file to auto-load. Right now it's set to SARS-CoV-6, which is a funny reference because this game is called Socially Distant. I thought I'd reference COVID-19's lab name, but that's a save slot name internally, and I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And this will allow us to access the in-game main menu that, you know, normally you are able to access. So we're going to exit out of that, and we're going to restart the game. Now this is going to run really fast. I'm excited. So this is the main menu. It's been redone a little, but all of those optimizations for text rendering have gone in. And we are running, while recording, mind you, we are running at a steady 700. Okay, it hits 300 and dips sometimes. Okay, no, it's 200. I just can't read. We're running at a steady 200 FPS, which is really freaking cool. This is 4K, okay? This is 4K, and it's a game engine written entirely in C#. Anyway, I wanted to come in here to show you guys something that I haven't actually seen in the new renderer, and that is the out-of-box experience. So ignore this. This is some JavaScript executing. But this definitely needs to be redone a little bit as far as looking good. But this out-of-box experience allows us to create our character. So it wants us to enter our name first and foremost. So I'm gonna call myself Richie. You all saw it. You all saw it coming. Alright, so we're gonna create Richie, and this is the pronoun select UI. Pronouns are important because this is a social-based hacking game in that you will spend a lot of time talking to NPCs in chat and in email, and a lot of time in social media too, in something resembling Twitter. But anyway, this is allowing you to set your pronoun. Now you can be either male, he and him. You can be female, she and her. And you can be non-binary, they and them. Now the reason I'm not implementing any other sorts of pronouns, I'm not implementing it, I'm not implementing anything else, is because this game isn't even localized, and the code for dealing with pronouns is already mentally insane as it is. So I'm only giving you the 3. And I don't even know if I'm going to localize this game beyond English, to be honest with you. And if I do, then I might have to remove this. I might have to just, you know, make it female and male. But I made this choice because I'm going to end up saying something really controversial without meaning to, so I have to be really careful here. But one of the fairly recent, within like the last decade or so, changes in society has to do with the way people identify in terms of their gender versus their sex. And not everybody identifies as a male, not everybody identifies as a female. So I kind of wanted to like further accentuate where in society this game takes place by giving you that option if you so choose, if you know what I mean. I know that sounds very controversial and like I'm pandering or something, I don't know, but I'm making a game. I'm not trying to make a political statement. Anyway, I'm gonna move on from that before I get cancelled or something by saying something I don't mean. But either way, when you select a pronoun inside this UI, this preview on the side will update. It's showing a little DM conversation between two members, two NPCs, and they're talking about you, and they're referring to you with whatever pronouns you select on the side here. And that's the important thing about this whole pronoun thing is it determines how NPCs in the game will react or will refer to you. So that is a selection you can make. The next selection you'll be able to make inside of the out-of-box experience is your default wallpaper and your default accent color, but that has not been implemented yet. You'll also be able to select a profile picture, but that also has not yet been implemented. So until that has been implemented, you will get sent the welcome screen. It's going to say, welcome Richie, press continue to have your virtual machine be provisioned. And you can press continue and your virtual machine will be provisioned. And then, provided all goes well, we will end up in-game. And we've created a save file. Now there's a bug where the terminal doesn't render text for the first time. I have to work on that. That's a Thundershock bug. I don't know what causes that just yet. I assume it's related to windowing. I don't know. I'll have to work on that. I'll have to debug it. But, you know, we are in Richie's system. And other than that, this is mostly the same game as Red Team right now. We have a home directory. home/Richie. And we have a root directory. In fact, the root user exists and has a home directory under root. So as far as simulating Linux or Unix, this is working pretty well. etc has its host name again. And although it doesn't react right away, the shell system will pick up that we've changed our host name, and we are now Hello PC. Dev is there again, but kmethod has been removed. Kmethod has been removed because it was causing a memory leak in Thundershock, and it was the C# or the C# garbage collection was going mental, so I had to remove it, and it's just a debugging feature anyway, so it's not necessary to be there. But there is /dev/null, which is, of course, your little nothing goes here type file, and anything you write there will be discarded. And debug lets you run Thundershock commands. Not that it really matters, because we have the dev console that has been in Thundershock for months. Anyway, that has been fixed as well. Sheetmanager.help will give you a list of all sheets in the game, including ones that are in the engine for debugging, for example, the config, and all that stuff. That's all there. We can play music, we can play audio, we can mess with the post-processor, we can mess with the scene, and there are more sheets, but they haven't been loaded in properly, so they're not showing. Anyway, sys.gpu name will tell you exactly what neofetch will tell you. and it'll tell you what graphics card you are running the engine on. By the way, on laptops, on laptops with NVIDIA Optimus, Thundershock will by default run on your integrated graphics. You will have to go into your NVIDIA control panel and or you can go into Windows display settings and you will have to either tell your NVIDIA control panel to run everything on the high performance NVIDIA graphics, or you will have to whitelist Thundershock or any games written in Thundershock to run on your high performance graphics, which can be done in Windows settings. So if you're experiencing performance issues on a laptop and you have a dedicated GPU on your laptop, it might be doing NVIDIA Optimus and the game engine doesn't have any way to explicitly use the high performance, so you have to do it on your own. OpenGL, to my knowledge, does not have a way to change which graphics card is used. SDL2 might, I just don't know how to implement that. When we add DirectX and Vulkan support to the engine, which will be next summer, that will be fixed. Because Vulkan lets you set the graphics card, and I believe DirectX does too. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, that's the big dev update. I'm going to go to bed after I upload this. I'm going to take a shower, and yeah, so a lot of optimizations made. There's not a whole lot done to gameplay. I know, it's becoming a running joke, but there are so many optimizations we needed to make to the engine first, and they're done. They're working. It's great. I'm loving it, and I have no doubt that you guys are going to be able to run this engine in this game on any hardware you throw at it, as long as it supports OpenGL 4.2. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. As always, I've been Michael. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.